Welcome to Unfamiliar Territory, an anime podcast hosted by two white dudes who've been friends for over 15 years. We talk about the history and influence of anime, as well as review anime new and old, believe in the stars, and sail away for the future into unfamiliar territory.
My name is Grant.
And I'm Brantley. Heads up, spoilers on the way. Check the description, see if you're safe to listen.
You know what we haven't started our episodes with for like a long time?
What's that?
Just like a non sequitur. Just like a completely nothing. We've been doing a lot of like planned shit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Welcome to Zombieland Saga 2.
Fuck. Fuck. Zombieland Saga experience is, it's grinning like a stupid fucking idiot. And then you cry.
Yep.
And then you smile again, and then you cry again. And now we're here. We have a whole nother season under our belts.
Yep. So if you're new to this channel, we did do a Zombieland Saga review of the first season like almost a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like quite a while ago. Hold on, I want to see how long this was.
Yeah. We were late to the party, but like even really I think I'm kind of to blame for that. I was late to the party and gotta say missed out, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, about 10 months ago.
Yeah, quick recap. It's good.
It's really good.
And you know, the recap on this one, it's also good.
Better.
I would,
in my
yes,
opinion.
I would say, you know, marginally to vastly better.
I think Zombieland Saga Season 1 was like a dinner from a chain restaurant, and you're like, man, that was a good experience. It wasn't super unique, although the sides were much better than expected. And then Zombieland Season 2 is like a pop-up kitchen that only is going to be there for a week. And you try it, and it's the best experience of your life. And no matter where you go, you can never recreate what you just saw.
Mm-hmm. Zombieland Saga Season 1 is like, are you ready? And you're like, yeah, I think I'm ready. And Zombieland Saga Revenge is like, no. Are you fucking ready? And you're like, well, I think I am. Would I not be? And they say nothing. They just look deep into your soul. So yeah. Where do we fucking start?
I think we start about where this takes place in the chronological order of what happened in Zombieland Saga between Zombieland Saga and then Zombieland Saga Revenge.
Yeah, okay, we can do that. Okay, so you've seen Zombieland Saga. Now, after that, Zombieland Saga Revenge.
Fuck you.
Sorry. Seriously, go ahead and fill in give us the premise of the season.
So Zombieland Saga, the original, ends with a pretty high note of our local idol group starting to become like good. People are noticing them, and then Kotaro, their absolutely batshit manager, producer explains to them that they're going to perform at this incredibly huge venue, and then nobody shows up, and they go into crippling debt, and that's where Zombieland Saga Revenge starts. It doesn't start with the crippling, like it doesn't start with them getting into crippling debt. By the time you see the characters that you've grown to love, and you've followed their journey, they've already been beaten.
They've been Metroided.
Yeah, they lost all their powers from the previous one, and now they can't crawl. And so you have a series of events that is talking about like what the individuals of the group are doing. They all got jobs. I can't remember what they all got, but they are all like doing odd jobs in Japan. Mm-hmm. Kotaro is a drunkard, and he's just long-haired and absolutely just devastated by everything. And it's really weird. I know in the last episode we talked about how we wanted to see them kind of explain the backstory of it. And my goodness, do they do that?
Oh my god. They bust it wide open. Like,
and then they make it more whack.
It's... If you ever had hang-ups about, like, gee whiz, I just wish they'd explain, or at least, like, lampshade some of the whole zombie, premise, like the necromancy and stuff. If that was you, if you were just kind of like, if you were like, yeah, I'm in, but I wish they'd get more real. Uh-oh, you got what you asked for. It might not be what you wanted, but it's something. And
it's whack.
I'm into it, yeah.
I think this is one of the best world building I've seen in an anime in a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it is an idol show will never cease to amaze me.
Everything yet, if you're a mythology like trivia hound, you're gonna have a lot to read into.
Yeah. So the first, I think this show is almost an episode by episode. Some episodes are gonna take a lot shorter than others. Mm-hmm. But it's a phenomenally crazy ride, and I think each episode is able to showcase the best that our characters have, and it's fun to kind of break them down. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we all want to get to the moment where Lily Hoshikawa gets her ice beam back, but it really is critical that we take all of the episodes step by step here, because I think they all have something important to gain, like energy tanks and missile upgrades.
So the first one, as we said it, the big thing about it is that Kotaro no longer thinks he can save Saga. And from our understanding of the first one, that just means he thinks it's going to be a dead tourist town forever. So it doesn't seem to have this impact. And all the girls are like, hey, you need to come and help. We need to do this. And he's super depressed, super drunk, and no one wants to do it. And then there's a bartender at the bar he goes to called Bar Nu Jofuku, which is where he has been getting drunk at. And the bartender tells him, hey, you need to support the girls. And he meets them up at their current venue that they're at, and the encore wasn't as good as they thought. And then that kicks Kotaro back into nutso manager mode, where he's yelling and screaming and being everybody that you love. It's a
fight.
Oh, he does start a fight.
Yep.
Is that in the first one? It is. It is in the first season.
Shouting. Yep. He's the only one shouting for an encore, and starts a major fight on the floor while they do their last number.
Yep. Well, and also the two gentlemen that have been following them forever are also there.
Mm-hmm. Skull and Bull are their names.
Yeah, the metalheads, and they also start the fight. And honestly, those dudes are ride and die from the very beginning to the point where they're willing to commit a assault for them, and I think that's just wonderful. And then it moves into the second episode, which is an episode about radio and how it's a dying medium. Mm-hmm. And they meet White Ryu, who is based on the Japanese voice actor was Haikuru, who is a old actor. He's a Korean resident of Japan, and he's been in like a shit ton of films from like the 80s. Mm-hmm. And so he basically played himself. He wears sunglasses out everywhere, and he's just nuts, right? Mm-hmm. Like he himself is this eccentric actor person.
He's waxing poetic constantly.
Yeah, and so they basically have him play himself in Zombieland, and he's just this old radio star that Saki liked from her childhood, and he has a limp pompadour and rides on the front of his car. Mm-hmm. It's so silly. What do you think about Ryu?
I I think that this episode, because of something I've watched recently, aside from Zombieland Saga Revenge, I can better appreciate how much they like nail this stuff. Very recently, I was watching an OVA series called X Driver, which starts out pretty innocuous. It's like a
Is it
show
about a
about
person who
AI.
loses his license?
No, it's about no, but I mean it is about people who no longer drive their cars because their cars are AI driving, and basically every episode is like, oh, someone's car is going out of control. How will we stop it? Except it kind of they get a little tired with that, and they start just doing more about like character relationships and gags and things like that. And they have a character who's very much like he's like a TV newscaster type. Like a golden boy style of character who's just like, fabulous, and wouldn't you take a look at that? And he's supposedly like well renowned for his his directing and for his documentaries that he does. And so he's supposed to be doing this documentary on the X drivers. But the whole episode basically devolves into him like weirdly creeping on one of the like teenage girls that's part of the X drivers, and they don't ever really problematize it properly. It's just weird. And it ends with just this like mellow all's well that ends well. And I can't stress this enough. Like, this came out in the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's just kind of like, oof. To then, revisit this episode where, this episode is about White Ryu and Saki, and, Saki essentially hero worshipping this guy, and, basically thinking, like, oh, I'm in love with this dude and his persona. And, he promptly shuts her down, and, just plays it cool. He's the adult in the situation, and he, jokes like, you're not the old woman for me, or, old lady for me, something like that. And it's just like, the episode gets to resolve on, one of the moments in the show that consistently can make me cry. Where Saki is coming to terms with the fact that she won't age, and that love in that sense is kind of futile for her as a zombie. And what a vast rift in quality that is, right? Like, the premise of each show is still pretty like kitschy. Like, we have like a driving action show about like angsty teens and fun cars, and we have idol show about a crew of zombies and their like shenanigans. Neither of these like have to be better or worse than the other in their premise, but the execution is night and day, and that carries through like the rest of these episodes as well. So the way that White Ryu is like so absurdly down to earth, and like no one's really getting his vibe except Saki. It's terribly humorous, but in a way that's not just like gag, like there's these like low and high moments where for example, Sakura is supposed to be reading cue cards, and she's just doing an absolutely awful job. Like, she's just super stiff, like isn't emoting. She's trying to read it too carefully. And then you're breaking into like these like, this poetic look at mud skippers and how they resemble the Zombieland crew in society. And then, some absurd thing will kind of explode and just like, I'm gushing.
Yeah.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
I don't remember where we were at.
I asked you what you thought of White Ryu, but I think you did a really good job expressing what makes Zombieland Saga's episodes really good.
It's mud skippers.
It's mud skippers. You have an episode that is dedicated to a goofy pompadour glasses wearing dude who rides on the front of a car constantly. And it still takes the time to talk about the overarching effects of society on these characters, and they handle it in a way that is mature but also funny, but also sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I still feel like this show is like majority comedy, minority tragedy, but that doesn't mean the tragedy doesn't hit hard.
Right.
And I appreciate that. It's nice to have a show that has high stakes and it's dramatic, but like it's never coasting on this feeling of like, oh god, are they gonna make it? You always know things will turn out. It always has that like, spirited energy to it. Which is something we could all use a little bit of in year 3 of pandemic times.
Yes. Yeah, it's really good. And so I'm a big fan of it. Let's move on to the next episode. You've basically covered everything I wanted to talk about on an episode. And this one is kind of a combo episode. This is a two-parter where you have Frau Shushu, and they are going to be the opening act for Iron Frill, which is Ai's old idol group. And you get a very interesting dynamic of, hey, I want to hide from the fact that this is my old idol group, and everyone is talking to Ai, and they're basically saying, hey, you look a lot like our old leader. And she's just like, haha, no, I get that a lot. And it's a really good look at Ai's character and how she misses her old life and how her life is just completely different. But you also get to see Junko. It's a lot about Ai, but I think it's mostly about Junko in these two episodes.
Yeah, as you're going through, you'll think, oh, it's an Ai episode. Well, no, I guess it's more of a Junko episode. Oh, okay, no, yeah, it's an Ai episode. They rally it really well.
Because we basically what you have is you have Junko who feels and like the failure is on her because she's also one of the big idol members, and Ai is being headhunted because everyone thinks that she is the best of Frau Shushu. So Junko feels inadequate because not only has there been failures under her supposed leadership, but she also is afraid that the one person who seems to understand her life will leave. And so you get this incredibly low energy episode, even compared to the last one, where it's a lot of personal reflection. I think the guitar, like the acoustic part that they do in the episode 3 is really good, and it's really good. And then the next episode, they're like, hey, Junko, you can play guitar, do an electric guitar solo, and smash through your insecurities. And then they play a heavy metal number, and then Junko smashes Kotaro's guitar. And it's really fucking funny.
And Ai rushes the stage to join them again. Oh, it's good.
It's good.
You bring up a good point. This is a slower pair of episodes. Like, there are quite a few in this season that don't have a lot of action going on, and I think that's fine because the high points still hit. I don't remember if it's episode 3 or episode 4, but they have the bit with Sakura and Junko on the roof, and Sakura's body falls off, but Junko grabs her head in time, and so her body just kind of limply rolls off the roof and falls down. And then later on, as they're talking, just Junko to Sakura's head, Sakura's body climbs back up and tries to make its way back over the head, but then just like starts slipping down again. And they're not really like calling attention to it. This is just all happening in the foreground. Oh, it's great.
That's the third episode. It's a very touching and like serious conversation between the two girls, but they're basically playing the slapstick zombie aspect in the background, and it's really, really funny.
Yeah. It's a good role reversal we have here too, in which like Ai, who was normally part of this group, is considering doing like a solo act, and here's Junko, who was a solo act, is now trying to really like embrace the group thing, and Ai is going to kind of leave her out of that, and basically her anchor to that is kind of being lost. I think it's interesting, and I think that quite a bit of this season, at the very least, I think, say with like Lily's episode, deals with this kind of reversal, right? That based on what they learned in season one, they now have that sort of put to the test here in season two.
Yeah, it's it's interesting how much they're able to remember the dynamics that, I mean, it should be a normal thing for a show to be able to continue with the dynamics being carried over from the previous season. But so many times when I watch anime that have more than 12 episodes or more than 3 cores or whatever, it always feels like the show writers want to reset the characters back to their original position so that they can play with their original interactions.
Yeah.
But this show constantly is moving things, and I think that's really good.
It has a pretty strong sense of object permanence and like emotional permanence.
This ain't no baby anime. I can't understand where you went when you play peekaboo with it.
maybe the one that would seem to stand out as not that might be Kotaro, because Kotaro has a big drop between season 1 and season 2. But I think it's kind of the point of his character, that this was always kind of possible for him to just sort of lose all hope. And he hadn't really ever gotten his chance to develop yet, and so that's when it hits.
And you see a lot of Kotaro in this season where his personality from the first season is a front. You get to peel back that layer of assholery that he is so good at putting on and see who he is as a person. He's still a little dramatic and still a little goofy, but that you get to see why he puts on the act and why he does it, and it makes it just so much better.
Yeah, there are just so many little cute things that happen too, like when he storms in, and I think it's episode 3, and he's doing like the Full Metal Jacket bit, and he's got the water gun, and he starts shooting them all in the face. Like Lily jumps out to take the shot for Yugiri, and that's cute. And later on in the show, Lily calls Yugiri as just Yugi, as like a nickname. Just like, there are these little tethers between the characters, as opposed to, say, all the characters being tethered back to just Kotaro, or all just being connected back to Sakura. Like there's sort of a web going on in which the characters are bonded differently with each other, and that's neat.
Mm-hmm. It makes the show's relationships feel so much more real than a lot of anime are able to pull off.
Yeah, like they're talking about love and how that's taboo with idols, and Lily's just like, everybody loves me, everyone in the whole world, and Yugiri just chimes in. She's like, that includes me, kind of like I'm your biggest fan type of thing. And it's just like, yeah, like you get to see who's sort of who has these more personal bonds, where it's like Yugiri kind of takes care of Lily, and there's sort of like a maternal thing going on. I feel like with Ai and Junko, we already discussed that. Sakura and Saki, get to have like some I feel like sort of they're maybe, because they're sort of energetic, they bounce off each other well, that kind of stuff.
Yep. I dig that. And speaking of Lily, that can be our very awkward segue to continue talking about the different episodes. But the next episode is Lily's episode, and Lily had the strongest episode from the first season. I think that episode, Neverland Saga, is one of the best pieces of anime media. Her episode in this one's cute. It's not super in-depth and good, but it does kind of talk about like the idea of viral phenomenon, just like a little bit. It like highlights it. So it's a game show. It's like a talent show, and Lily is on, and she's competing against another child actor named Light Uzora, and he's kind of a dick. He thinks that Lily is immature and basically yells at her for wanting to be a kid and childish forever, because he doesn't know she's a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
But he also doesn't like that that's how he's portrayed as well. He wants to grow up to be an actor, and he knows that as a child actor, the older he gets, the less likely that is to happen. So you do get to see a little bit of that kind of systemic issue of child actors and being exploited by a company or an agent, only to be thrown away the moment you are no longer useful for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. Once again, the episode's not that in depth, but even following it a little bit, there's a lot more to say than what's on the outside.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Here you have, a kid who's being forced to grow up too fast because he's, aware of what's ahead. And meanwhile, Lily's kind of breaking down the idea that there is this distinct separation between childhood and adulthood. That you can still be a goofball, you can still, make mistakes and have fun and cut loose. And that doesn't, necessarily, deprive you of your agency. And I'll say maybe this is one of the episodes that doesn't sit with me super well because they, there's no time left to talk about, the whole social media aspect of this and sort of the private and public lives of these child actors. Mostly just that there is a separation, case in point being Light and how he, acts pretty stuck up when he's alone. But his stage persona is, very much catering to the whole cutesy naive kid thing. And that's about as much as we get there. I feel like it's pretty terrifying, the era we're in right now, where what used to be personal home videos of families and kids now becomes like a legacy for a person, that you grow up and you might have to tell the world, hi, I was a meme, I'm going to college now. That's about it. And then people want to know more, and it's like the lasting impact that a viral video has. It's a phenomenon that I don't think I'm even ready to wrap my head around. So I can't blame the show for not taking it on, but it gets me thinking for sure.
Yeah. For a show that already tackles so much, talking about the public and private life of idols is kind of the under theme of it anyway.
Yeah, it's the assumed part you have to just kind of run with.
Because the show is about idols trying to hide the fact that they're zombies in their private life and in their public life. They're these perfect little performers. So I guess it kind of already tackles that, but we don't get to see it in much of a realistic expectation.
Mm-hmm.
But it does end with Lily's performance, because Light and her perform the same song, and Lily improvises a jazz scat rendition of it, and the younger members of the audience think it's wonderful, and so Light wins because all the judges are adults, but Lily gets to be a viral movie star, and it comes to play later, and it's cute.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an okay episode. I don't think this episode is super good, and I think that's fine.
But that's because we have so many other episodes that are just absolute, home runs.
Yeah, like the next episode, which is about Tai just doing chores and accidentally earning 20 million yen.
Yo, this one is over the handlebars and into midair. Yeah, do you want to walk us through the plot synopsis of this?
I mean, it's just Tai, the legendary Tai Yamada, who is an actual zombie who can't talk.
She's not awakened yet, yeah.
Or she is, I don't know. I haven't read the manga. There's a manga that focuses on her pre-life that I haven't read. But Maria, who's Saki's old friend's daughter works at the same supermarket that Tai does their chores at. And there's a really sweet part where Tai starts eating the food at a grave that was offered to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's being followed around by the detective, I can't remember his name, but he's the journalist who's been looking into Frau Shushu. And he gets all upset with her because she ate food off a grave, and then as she walks away, you see the grave is hers.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
Tai does a dance competition for a little bit with Drive-In Tori, the chickens, the mascot,
Mm-hmm.
and defeats him. And she wins 30,000 yen for that. And Maria, Saki's friend's daughter, is like in a dance crew now instead of a motorcycle gang. And then they end up going to a boat race, which is where the other motorcycle game from first season has become. They're like boat racers, and Tai bets all of the money from the dance on Misa, who was the rival, and she wins, and that's how they get 20 million yen, basically eliminating their debt. It's like watching Baby's Day Out, which is just a long reach into the nostalgia pit of terrible 90s movies. But it's the same concept where this inable character, whether they be a baby or a zombie, is just accidentally stumbling into good fortune, and it's fun. But Okabe, the detective, watches Sakura decapitate Tai, and so that's when he's like, oh, maybe they are not human. And it's a good episode. It kind of once again, these two episodes are more of plot pushers than like really deep episodes.
Yeah.
But it still kind of tackles the problems with paparazzi and trying to live your life while being watched. Although you do get to see a little cute moment where Tai is kind of like a local celebrity because she's the one that always does the chores.
Mm-hmm.
So she sees like all these people and they're like, oh, it's number 0. What a coincidence. It's so great to see you.
Mm-hmm.
And that part's fun.
Yeah. I think, like, deep in here, there's something buried about the way people are, like, underestimated. You look at a character like Tai who, doesn't have all of her faculties, but she's still, like you mentioned, she's still a valued part of the community. She still contributes and wants to do so. Like, I think it's cute and uplifting in that sense. And maybe gets people thinking a little bit, about, like, everything from infantilization, and our tendency to pathologize certain conditions, be they neurological or motor based, whatever, like that we do that to the extent where we do take agency from a person, or we end up undervaluing them because we don't really understand them well enough. I'm not super qualified to say any more than that, but in any case, it's a cute episode with a good message, and it gets you to sort of empathize with Tai a little better, besides her just being a gag.
Yeah.
If you're interested in the plot, you're going to see more of Okuba, like Grant mentioned, so you're getting, like, the journalist angle of this, and, like, this will link into later episodes. And you also get to see more of Policeman A being a total shitbag, because he's the one who convinces Tai to go bet the money, and essentially is trying to get a cut out of it.
Yeah.
Like a fucker he is.
But hey, you know what? They won.
Yeah. I do love that this show has minimal cop representation through basically on screen just this one dude. And he's just a true bastard.
Yeah, he never does anything great.
Yeah. Like he you know what? I'm not gonna give you the lightning round of all the shitty things he does. Just know that that's consistent.
I mean, he shoots Sakura. He doesn't do like anything good.
Yeah.
And then the next episode, it starts off with Kotaro committing manslaughter, where he accidentally kills somebody, which is one of the gags that when we were watching it, we are holding our breath about it because I was wondering how they were gonna do this in a way that wasn't awful.
Yeah. This is a pins and needles episode. If you're someone who like has a hard time with secondhand embarrassment, I think the show can already be kind of tough. But especially this episode.
It's a good episode, though.
It is. I was gritting my teeth the whole time.
But so this character named Maimai Yuzuriha dies in quotations when she goes into a bathhouse and accidentally stumbles into the men's bathhouse because she's fucking Velma from Scooby-Doo and can't see anything without her glasses. And she knocks herself unconscious and
she slips and cracks her head.
Yeah, and they do the death scream that they did with Sakura, and it's this entire thing. It's a really good throwback.
Mm-hmm.
They do the multiple angle shots. And it's really funny because Kotaro is trying to like talk about how he got a new member to the group, and he's just so scared. And all the other girls are like, "You killed somebody?" And he's like, "No." But it turns out she's just unconscious, and then she discovers that they're zombies, and she's like okay with it. Mm-hmm. She's one of their biggest fans. That's kind of the big point of this, is that Maimai is a fan of Frau Shushu, and she's also been ride or die. And it's a decent episode. They basically take her through the training, and they show her the ropes, and it's a good look at how people see Frau Shushu outside of what we've already seen. Like, we get a couple experiences with some of their fans, but this is a diehard fan who has a life outside of showing up at their audiences. Because most of the time when we see the members, the people that like them, they're just there to see the show. But we see her at school, we see her do her things that she likes, and she suggests that they perform for her cultural festival, where they're like, this is going to be our 8th member, and they're all for her being the actual 8th member, because she's nice. It's really sweet to see a show where a new person comes in, fucks around a bit, but not a single person is upset at her or mad that she's there. Mm-hmm. And she never uses the fact that she knows Frau Shushu is a zombie, and she kind of does at first.
She tells it for the initial leverage, yeah, and that's about it.
Yeah, but other than that, she's pretty chill about it. I also like the way that she starts to do realizations about why she doesn't belong in Frau Shushu. Mm-hmm. Where she talks about how all the other girls are there to relive a life that they never got a chance to have, and she has a life, and so it's very sweet. It's a good episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one was tough for me to get through, because Maimai is kind of that, like, it's so like uber sweet, the way she's way into Frau Shushu, that it's just like, it's overwhelming. I think maybe the kids these days might call it cringe.
Yeah, she's mega cringe.
And so that can be a little tough to weather. But like you said, like, it still has the same heart at this, and I do like whenever they can sort of demonstrate, like, here's the work that Frau Shushu puts in and what sets them apart. There's Maria and her little dance crew, just kind of struggling to keep up and like match each other's pace when they're doing that. and like, you know, you can see that they're kind of in the shadow of what Franz Shushu is doing. You know, that's an important characterization, you know, that we're getting. That it's not just like, here's these titans of entertainment, you know, Franz Shushu and Iron Frill and that kind of thing, but we also have the people who are inspired by that and, you know, get into, you know, dance and music as an expression, you know, and a hobby, and the hard work that it takes. But, you know, the payoff that's also, you know, immediate from that when people can appreciate you for it. It's a whole tied up set of shoestrings about that, I suppose.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. It's a good episode. And then it goes into a period piece, a fucking historical drama. So that episode ends with Okuba realizing he knows who every single member of Franz Shushu, and except for Yagiri. And so we get the Yagiri backstory episode, which is a 2-part drama of the 1874 Saga Rebellion, which is a legitimate historical event that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wild.
Mm-hmm.
So Yugiri is a courtesan, and she has her freedom. She's basically bought by a wealthy patron, so she doesn't need to be a courtesan anymore. And she goes and joins him in Saga, and the person that bought her dies, and so she is alone with a bunch of money and has nothing to do. And so she meets Kichi, who is a man dedicated to restore Saga's status as an independent prefecture, and it's all about saving Saga and making Saga what it needs to be. And he has and I think he's voiced by the guy that voiced Kotaro.
Yep. There's a lot of voice matching going on here. Like, side characters are played by like lookalikes of, you know, the Zombieland, like the Franz Shushu crew. You know, Yugiri is still Yugiri, obviously, but Keiichi is Kotaro. Like, Policeman A shows up again. Like, there's like a generational thing kind of going on.
Yeah.
Some of which is like surely kind of tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Like,
when you
not
see
really there. Like, go ahead.
When you see like Sakura telling people to come visit her stand, she's there for one time.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe, because of the way that Japanese voice actors get paid, they get paid per episode no matter how many lines they have in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all of the voice actresses were given one line in these episodes despite them not being in it,
mm-hmm.
so that they could get paid for it. That's my personal belief.
Yeah. Yeah. We also have like the dog Romero ends up showing up.
Which, as the dog.
Yeah. And so again, it feels like sort of like they're borrowing, you know, the modern day characters and using them as actors in this period piece. But it's done tastefully, and there's enough weirdness that you remember, yeah, this is Zombieland Saga.
But so Kichi and Yagiri become kind of a thing, and they want to save Saga, and they talk about how Kichi's father died in the original uprising, and then Kichi has a friend named Ito who is like not super into Saga being independent. He thinks that a war is going to happen and that they shouldn't do anything about it. And some samurai get involved. And so they basically try and start this uprising. And Ito, Kichi's friend, tells Yugiri, hey, you two leave because you're done. Once this happens, you're dead. And if they find out what you guys did to bring up this rebellion, they will execute you. And then you find out that Ito is working with the Meiji government, so that he can quell this rebellion. And Kichi finds that out, and Kichi tries to stop him, and then Yagiri tries to defend Kichi, and she duels Ito, and he allows himself to die because he respects Kichi, and then Yugiri is executed. And
she takes Keiichi's place, basically.
Yeah, it's so fucking... And there's so little jokes during this time.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out that the old man that they were working with the entire time is the bartender at the bar New Jofuku, where Kotaro keeps going. And they realize that Kichi helps create the saga they're currently in, and they have a picture of them hanging out together from the 1800s, and it's so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Feels awfully relevant. Like this is a fictionalization of a real Japanese historical event. And yet, like, I think it's important to pay attention to. Like, I think they hit it on the head well enough that we can learn things from this, and that, like, we're experiencing things not so dissimilar from it right now, So, Saga basically gets assimilated and erased through this westernization process where, the feudal class of samurai are, sort of overturned. Warring ensues, but ultimately, they don't get their way. In this, this is to the backdrop of, Keiichi's grandfather, basically, like, going through this loop of I am Saga, Saga is me. Sort of a metaphor for, like, Saga is on, the brink of dying as, not only just like a land, a land delineation, but also as like a cultural identity and whatnot, and as a history. And what we sort of come to realize is like, well, Saga is not going to be restored just by one person living on, right? Like, Keiichi's grandfather maybe could overcome sickness, but he will eventually die of old age, or so we think. And so Keiichi is, taking the movement to restore Saga. For a lot of reasons he doesn't actually really understand. He has what Yugiri refers to as these progressive ideals for Saga, and wants it to be a better place where people can live free, and all these platitudes, right? But he never says anything really, like, more particular than that. He wants to restore it on behalf of his father, on behalf of his grandfather, and because of these ideals. But those ideals are misplaced, and unfortunately provoke, this sort of, like, conservative mythologized history that the samurai who survived the war still harbor. And so Keiichi's, attempts get co-opted. And I think that's a real thing that, happens, quite frequently in our current time. Where progressive intent, that's something, but if you're not careful, if it doesn't have substance, then it doesn't take much for these more, regressive behaviors and regressive ideals to take it and run with it and cause, destruction that doesn't come to a head, because what they're chasing after didn't exist in the first place, right? Like, Yugiri's wise to notice what Keiichi really wants, but Keiichi doesn't really understand that. He doesn't really understand what the conflict is between I want a new saga and I want the old saga. You can't really have both. And yet that's the perfect opportunity then for the strong arm of the samurai to come in, and essentially, start a bloody revolution through that. As life and culture are going to change with time, we can't really expect, an ideal history to fix what is happening now. We need, a new history that's informed by what used to happen. And it certainly doesn't help if we're misremembering or altering what those events used to be. And so we're seeing all of that play out. at this point, I'm just kind of like blah 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 blah. So to wrap it up, I think it's modern day relevant. I think that right now when we have like human interest that gets bent into, Western intervention and imperialism, when we have history being mischaracterized in the name of upholding a status quo that was never good to begin with, but is being sort of flaunted as such. Like, I think it's a fair warning, right? If you can take this episode seriously, I think that you can walk away with it, like having unlearned some things and learned some new things, which is totally fucking wild for this show, right?
I think totally fucking wild for this show describes Zombieland Saga to a T.
It's so. Go ahead.
You go in expecting the show to be just a goofy good time, and for the most part it is, but then it pulls out a 2-part historical drama that makes you fucking cry as you watch someone who you knew was going to die. Mm-hmm. And it hits these plot points so unbelievably well with such meticulous accuracy that you just can't help but wonder what the hell other studios are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, for real, I think that this show is just, the word I'm looking for, what is it? It's, Zombieland Saga is modest. It's modest in a way that lets you set your guard down constantly. It's like, yeah, okay, they had their fun, but now it's time for gags again. And then, vroom, here comes the groundswell, like, here comes the tears, here comes the drama, like,
it's good. It's fucking phenomenal.
There's a reason why I fluctuate feeling like, maybe this, if I had to put a number to it, maybe this would be more like a 9 for me. But if I sit down with it again, and I see this stuff, and they top it off with some banger song at the end, it's a 10. It's gotta be. Like, I would be lying to myself if I didn't take that emotional experience and, describe it in that way.
Yeah, 100%. And you can honestly talk so much about the Saga Incident Part 1 and the Saga Incident Part 2.
Yeah.
They are definitely the high points of this season, and that's not to say the rest are low points. It's just a peak of just goodness. And these 2 episodes are just phenomenal. Episode 10 is mostly a recap episode, not about the series itself, but it talks about what happened in between Zombieland Saga and Zombieland Saga Revenge. There's a really sweet part where the girls are like, well, we don't have anything to eat, and while we don't really need to eat because we're zombies, I would like to have food. And Ty puts on some crappy makeup and goes and buys groceries for the girls, and that's what inspired them to get out of their debt. And that part's cute. Then it continues into the future where Kotaro has re-rented out the same stadium, the Ikame Fudosan Stadium, for their revenge concert. So they basically say, hey, we are going to be at the same place where we failed, and we're gonna sell out. And during this time, we forgot to mention, you find out that Saga is legitimately cursed.
Like, there's your lore. Here it is.
So Saga has been cursed from what happened back in this time. And essentially anyone that is trying to save it is doomed to die so that they cannot save it. So the idea behind these girls' existence and why they died so young was because they had the capability to save Saga, and outside forces, I can't remember what they call them, but outside forces
are... Was it Sagako? Or was that something else?
It's like a god.
Yeah.
Are trying to prevent it, which is a whack thing that's starting to happen. And so you have these literal divine forces just murdering them. And it's great. It's so good. And so Kotaro is trying to put on this show because with enough love and spiritual succession, you can save Saga. And they put on this anniversary thing, and it ends with a storm coming, and the mansion gets washed away into the sea. Okuba figures out that they're zombies, and this prophesized cataclysm starts. And Kotaro and the bartender are in the bar, and this severe rainstorm happens, and it basically throws them all topsy-turvy. It's pretty neato.
Mm-hmm. It also finally comes together, and you realize that all these times where, you know, the accidents happening or these near-death experiences, which are becoming more and more frequent with Kotaro, that, you know, they're not just for gags. This is plot.
The world is trying to kill Kotaro.
Yeah, and the rest of them, for that matter, as you'd mentioned.
Yes.
Like, and just like this is where it's really sinking in a literal sense. Like Kotaro almost drowns inside the bar, etc.
Which brings up to my my favorite episode of the season. Besides, like I think it's my personal favorite. I think that the Saga incident is a better crafted show, but this one makes me feel the best. So Franchushu's mansion comes back to the shore in Saga, so they're not lost in the ocean, but they've lost all of their makeup and their supplies, and so they're found by one of Ai's peers from her old job, and they find out that, hey, most people in Saga are alive, but they're all staying in a storm shelter, which is an old mall. And it's a kind of a collective of people helping out. And so they start off by just performing for them, like singing, but then they use all their talents to start and help like reconstruct this area to be helpful. So I and Sakura and Tai will work in the kitchen. Saki will be outside putting up barriers and stuff. And it's really, really sweet.
Yeah, it's the realization of, you know, them being community figures, and, you know, when push comes to shove, that they're just like, hey, we have to help out. Like, they don't have to, because they're zombies, right? Like, they could just go hide in a corner and wait it out. But they risk it. They put on makeup to their best of their abilities. And, you know, they fake it till they make it. And in doing so, they, you know, help keep people healthier and happier. It's so nice to see, you know?
Yeah, it's a very, very sweet episode that really pushes forward this community helping each other, and it's nice. And Kotaro is saved from the drowning bar, and he tells the girls, hey, we're going to still do this concert after this disaster. And everyone is worried because it's like, oh shit, really? And so that goes into the final episode, where first off, you have the most badass line, where, because Okuba is in a point where he's kind of, okay, maybe I won't expose these girls for being zombies. He thinks that Kotaro is exploiting these girls, but Kotaro talks about how he's not. And so they kind of put aside their differences to save Saga. And Okabe goes,
it's still left pretty gray, which is nice.
Yeah, like, Okuba isn't like, you're right, this is it. He still kind of feels that way, but he still wants to help them. And the best fucking line in the show, and one of my favorite lines of all time, is when Okuba says, "I'll do my best and let the gods sort out the rest of it." And then Kotaro responds with, "I'm not leaving a damn thing up to God. Not after everything that's happened." Like, what a fucking hard line.
Yeah.
It's
from the
good.
guy who previously some of his best lines were go 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 go, no, yeah, go, like
Yes. Also, there's a couple things we missed about Kotaro. There was, during the talent show, he did do an imitation of a mudfish.
Mud skipper time.
The mud skipper. It's really fucking good. He has a really nice heart-to-heart with Sakura, because Sakura's like, "I think I know you," or something, and he takes off his facade and talks about how kind and caring she is. And it's a really nice interaction. And there's also the part in the beginning where he sits out in the ocean and screams into the ocean with his shirt off, and that part rules.
Yeah, and it's totally silent.
Yeah, it's a
like,
good
well,
part.
you're just hearing the waves, and he's shouting something, but you're not allowed to hear, and it's just,
Yeah.
He gets his own song. Did that happen yet? In our synopsis? Have we reached that point?
When does he get his own song?
It's when he's running to them. So I think before he meets back up with them, it's during that part.
It's on episode 11, but he does get his own song.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's fucking good. But then the last episode is basically just a concert. It's 5 songs.
Yeah.
And it's really sweet because you have they're standing in the empty stadium and they're holding their breath and they're like, "Where is everybody?" And then everyone shows up at once, and it's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's cheesy as hell, but it hyped me up.
Yeah.
And it international attention, and it's just an amazingly big performance, and it's super cool. And
it
then
feels earned.
Kotaro,
yeah,
it does feel earned. And then Kotaro tearfully, he tells the girls, "Hey, we're not done saving Saga, but you're doing it." And then he coughs up blood and hides it. Yeah. And you're like, "What the fuck is that?"
Check the box for vague anime cough up blood disease.
And then after the concert, aliens show up for one scene
and start the abduction.
And that's the end of it. The show ends with aliens. And I do know that they released some concept art. It's Zombies versus Aliens, right? That's what it's called. Zombieland Saga movie. It's called Zombie versus Aliens. It's Zombie versus Alien, Alien versus Predator.
Oh my god.
So
we've got that to look forward to.
Which it's so wild, because if this was any other show, I would just assume that it's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And this will probably be a little stupid. But
if there was nothing on Earth that could end them, maybe there's something out in space.
I like the poster for Zombieland Saga, because it's I and Junko wearing X-Files outfits holding a gray alien that looks like Kotaro. It's going to be weird as hell. But I'm all for it.
Yep. That movie could be nothing and I wouldn't care. I think they've done enough already. And so now it's just icing on the cake, as far as I can tell.
But yeah, that's Zombieland Saga Revenge.
Good God.
It's fucking good. Yeah. All the characters get their time to shine. You get to see a lot more of that interpersonal relationships that you got from the first season. And I love it to death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
do you have any final thoughts?
Let's see. Just that I think this is really easy to recommend. This show makes it look easy. They really do. like I said before, like it's mostly comedy, which means like you get to, if you want to share this with someone, then you pull up a few funny clips and then that's kind of how you can sort of get them in. Um, there's still drama, there's still high stakes, but ultimately it's an uplifting show, so it's not going to be a slog to get through. There are some slower episodes, but I think those are also still high quality, especially because you'll make your way through the first season before you can get to some of those more dramatic hard hitters. You can watch it in Japanese or English performances, and they're both rock solid. We watched the dub, and I just love it. I think they've all done a fantastic job. Though we have heard only the Japanese songs, we've not heard any like the English translation songs from, or at least I haven't heard the English translation songs.
I don't know if they're out yet. They take a little bit longer.
Yeah. And like it's got a broad appeal. I think maybe for some people the appeal's too broad. Where it's just like, no, I can't really get in with the whole like CGI performance things, or like I said before, there's a lot of secondhand embarrassment that tends to happen with some of the antics. But outside of that, there's nothing that I found to be like problematic that would hold the show back or prevent you from showing it to someone. Like,
it's good.
Yeah, there's not even really any fan service. Like the closest you might get is like that sometimes the girls will like bathe together, but there's no nudity or even close to that. Like in fact, some of them will be always wearing bandages, such that like there's no close calls or anything like that. There's nothing titillating. Otherwise, there's the bit with Mai in the public bath that might get some people concerned, but just know it's there's nothing weird about it. It doesn't go wrong there.
And it's not like Kotaro acts weird either.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that he's afraid that he killed someone.
Yes.
Like that's the thing about it. He's like, oh fuck, someone just died and it's my fault.
Yeah.
And that's the joke, right? The joke isn't, oh no, a girl came into a men's bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's I committed manslaughter and I will go to prison.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And it's again, it's like they're showing everybody up as far as I can see. Make it look easy, just like, oh yeah, you just don't do that shit. You just don't don't be weird about it.
It's a wildly accessible comedy style. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you like weird antics, that is.
Yeah. For a show that's about a real place in Japan, and like its culture and things like that, accessible. It's really accessible, and it's one of the shows that I every now and then like, maybe this would be one of those that I recommend alongside the more obvious stuff like Cowboy Bebop. Maybe that sounds absurd, but
I think the only thing that keeps me from recommending it to people is because at its core it's still an idol show.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain, okay, so this show's about this and this, and there are just moments where they will do a full 3-minute song.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry.
I agree with that, yeah.
Cuz some people just don't like that, and I get that. But other than that, I think it's very accessible.
Uh-huh.
Weird as shit, but very funny.
Yeah. They know what they're doing. Themes. So,
it has a good one. The opening theme is phenomenal.
It is. It's another good opening theme. My God. 2 for 2.
There's a part where it's a really well animated opening, and when Mappa puts their stamp on it that they animated it, it's like front and center.
It might as well be with 2 middle fingers too.
It's a very well.
Look at us go.
It's so well crafted, because a lot of times you'll see like it'll be like in the subtext, right? You'll see like the kanji or yes.
Yeah.
Talking about it, and you'll see like Bones or Studio Trigger, but Mappa does like a zoom out and the entire screen just says Mappa. Like, get fucked. Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah. What a victory lap. Okay, so in terms of like themes within the show, like subjects I feel like it deals with, um although it's like selling it on the whole premise of revenge, I feel like vulnerability is like a much bigger part of the show and how anything gets done. Um like the curse is contextualized in this way, like the way that any of these characters can bring about change is to invite discourse, right? That they have to step out and try to do something new or different or, courageous. That puts them at risk or, otherwise just kind of like a radical thing. And so that's interesting to me. All the events here are set in motion because of the core fans that have been supporting them up to this point. When they're and those people are once again going out on a limb for an idol group that has an awfully wide spread of like song styles and stuff they're doing, right? They can't just be like, oh yeah, we're all here for metal, oh yeah, we're all here for pop idols. Everybody has to come together in support of them, in a very like heterogeneous group. And when things do fall apart, you get to see, hey, here's the girls taking up part-time jobs to make ends meet, just like all these side characters you've been seeing before. It kind of set in for me just like how much of the show gets spent, especially like season 1, demonstrating, hey, here's Lily's dad who's working construction. Here's Okaba at his desk kind of stressing about making this story work because he's got to get that break. Here's Maria this season in the grocery store and stuff like that. Like, everyone is, they got to put themselves out there and they're doing the dirty work, but it's to support themselves and their hobby and their community. And you get to see some of those connecting threads, to kind of lightning around the other ways I'm seeing this, and why I feel like it's like an important part of the show. There's like Kotaro is stepping out and shouting for encore when no one else will, and that causes a fight. It's what they needed, but no one else was ready to say it. White Ryu is past his prime, but he's still sticking his neck out for Saga, and hands the reins over to Franshushu and everything. There's a lot of people coming to terms with things. Light and Saki and Junko and I are all kind of resolving their insecurities this season. And first, they have to be very honest about it with each other. They got to talk things out, and turn things over. There's stuff like Tai going out and doing the grocery runs, which again, it's risky for her to do that, but it allows everyone to get by. It's something that keeps everyone going, and something she contributes willfully. Mai's whole situation's an exposed nerve. And of course, like at the height of this, there's Yugiri, who takes the fall for Saga and the whole revolutionary event, right? In this show's adaptation of that history, the appeal from Keiichi and the others is only able to work because Keiichi didn't get assassinated or executed by the government, right? Because Yugiri went and took the fall instead. So yeah, I feel like, although this is a show about rising from the ashes and all that stuff, something stronger is the fact that none of this is really easy, and none of it is automatic. It requires that they get into trouble and try things and fail, and I like that a whole lot.
Yeah, the show, for having zombie characters, are very human.
You dumb motherfucker! You started laughing at you.
I just thought about how so when I was in high school, I did a thing called radio, where I would do fake radio announcements for speech team. And one of the events was impromptu on the spot reporting. And one of them we had to talk about Haitians who had one leg that were playing soccer. Mm-hmm. And I just completely blanked on it. But I managed to say they may have lost their legs, but they haven't lost their hope. And I got first in that round because of it. So I thought about the cheesiest shit I could say.
Well, congratulations.
But yeah, the characters in this are just so down to earth, and they're so believable in their chaotic world that they exist, and it makes it such a fucking treat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Ready for hypotheticals? Or do you have any last thoughts?
Watch it. It's good.
Yeah.
It's definitely one that's more fun to watch with friends.
Yes. Totally.
In case if you've seen it but your friends haven't seen it, I would watch it again. Watching the first season with Brantley over again was an absolute delight, and I would imagine watching this one again would also be great.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Okay.
So give me a hypothetical.
Alrighty. You're cursed. What do you do in your daily life that causes the curse to retaliate the hardest?
Try. What is the curse? That's very, because like, I mean, like
basically like doing.
Is the curse trying to kill me?
Something. But I mean, it's trying to prevent you from, revolution.
Anytime that I do a monocle of like self-care, that's when the curse hits the hardest, because I order some pizza, I get online, I carve out like 4 hours to do some stuff with friends, and then the curse will have my boss give me an email saying that I forgot to do something, and then oops. That's when the curse would get me. Just anytime I wanna be lazy.
Can't have shit in familiar territory.
What about you?
So I feel like it's whenever I hold the door open for someone way too early. Have you ever done that where you like someone's coming up and you like prop the door open so they can walk in, but like they like stop and then they're like taking their earbuds out, or like they like slow down to answer a text message and you're just sitting there holding the door open like an idiot? Yeah. Whenever that happens, I feel like the longer I hold the door open, just this like universal wrath is like pushing down on my shoulders and attempting to kill me.
Aliens are coming to destroy your town.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know what the plot of Zombies versus Aliens is going to be,
mm-hmm.
but I have no doubt that it's going to be defeating them with the power of song.
Yeah.
What talent do you use to convince the aliens not to destroy your city?
This is assuming that I'm
you can't pick podcasting. You can't pick podcasting because that would not help at all.
Okay.
It would immediately wipe out your town.
Am I allowed to know whether or not they can understand my language?
They can.
Okay. I'll cry.
Okay.
If I'm gonna be real, like I'm not gonna like I'd probably want to do diplomacy, but like
no. Okay, so you're not trying to convince them through words or anything.
Okay.
You have to convince them through some form of art
the human race is allowed to live because
zombie girls can sing, right? And
okay.
that convinces them to stop destroying the town.
Okay. So basically it's like I'm face to face with like alien Simon Cowell, is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, cry, I think. I think crying will be it.
He's not gonna take mercy on you.
Did I ever say I think I was gonna come out of this alive? How about you, Hotshot? What are you gonna do?
How about me? I would do a solo performance of West Side Story, and I would do a one-man show of it, and he would be like, "That was terrible," and then I'd go, "Yeah, but there's better plays out there," and then he would be like, "Oh, well, maybe I need to see all of the theater." And then he would be delayed enough until he finds like someone like performing. I don't know. The School of Rock starts touring again, and that's what gets him. Not me personally. I'm very my talent is very mediocre. That or I would play Sonic Adventure 2. Hey, want to see how fast I can beat this game?
Do you think like what you put in a request like, hey, I need to play this game to get my computer, and they're like they like what put the Earth destruction order on delay so they can ship it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or what, do aliens have access to Sonic Adventure 2?
I mean, I would imagine. If they're a hyper-advanced civilization, they obviously would have access to the best video game of all time.
Yeah. By the way, episodes where we mentioned Sonic Adventure 2, once again, put that counter back to 0. We've got a continuous back-to-back streak with the last one we did.
Yep, I will. Yeah, I just need to play that game on stream sometime.
Yeah, it's on the brain.
It is on the brain.
Okay, I've got a hypothetical that's very similar to what you asked, but a little different. Okay, so... let's say you got to choose what they're going to meet up with inside the UFO as they're getting abducted and stuff. What's it going to be? What are they going to find up there? What or who?
In the UFO. Oh, so now we're just predicting what's going to happen.
Yeah, but like
in the movie.
But you get to pick. You don't have to try to make it accurate. What would you do that would be interesting or hype or goofy or news?
So the people on the UFO are also humans, and you find out that the Earth they are on is a duplicate Earth that was created 200,000 years ago to reconstruct the historical events of planet Earth, and the zombies have completely nullified their academic integrity of their findings, so now they have to deal with that shit.
Alright. I was thinking more along the lines of like, dude, what if they went up there in Space Channel 5? Sorry, I feel like this was supposed to be the little 1-2 punch at the end. Okay, I do have runner-up ideas. One of which would be They go up there and it's the Shiba from Silent Hill, just the one.
Oh. Just the one.
Yeah, so it's just the entire levers. Yeah, the entire EFS crowd just gets sucked up there, and it's just the one dog. We have to perform for it. Or they go up there and it's the alien or aliens from Rolling Girls.
Oh, I would love that.
Get a little crossover.
I would love more Rolling Girls content. Even if it is a crossover event.
All right.
Wild. Well, that's all I have to say about Zombieland Saga Revenge and this podcast specifically.
Mm-hmm. We hope to see you next time. We're going to be reviewing Gotchaman Crowds. We'd already hinted to it in the previous episode, but finally we get to come around and do that. So another unfamiliar territory for you. We ended up liking it a lot more than I think we thought we were going to, so I'm excited to break it all down.
And thank you for listening to our ramblings. If you enjoyed what you listened to, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment about why you like Zombieland Saga Revenge. If not, you can send whatever. I might not respond. You can follow us on Twitter, where I post some wild shit every once in a while. Just pretty bad tweets, but I think they're funny. We stream on Twitch every Monday at like 7 p.m. And we've been doing Hero Hours contract. You can watch some of our VODs to catch up. And then, so you can follow us on Twitch. or you don't need to do any of those things, because we are not your dads.